A title sequence is conventionally shown at the beginning of a film. They show the names of important people who were involved in the production of the film, such as main actors, producers, directors, and cinematographers. They also include the title of the film, in my case, Dead Man. The title sequence traditionally helps to set the scene and introduce characters for the film. My title sequence conforms to the standard opening by starting off with a logo of a studio which distributes the film. Most of my logos are black and white, similar to the ones I have looked at. This one in particular conforms as I was able to use animation by copying the image of a dove and fading it in onto Final Cut Pro. To Kill a Mockingbird's logo, which is the title sequence that I had researched the most, was also in black and white, and it also used animation for the spinning globe behind the Universal International Studio. One of the titles in the film opening for This Is England is a Shane Meadows film. This is a recognised director who the audience will recognise and therefore want to watch the film ahead because they'll know that his films are really good. Therefore, I wanted to do this in mine and show a name and say it's their film so that the audience would recognise the name and therefore want to carry on watching my film. However, unlike This Is England, I was able to put my film title over some footage that I had taken instead of using a black background, as wanted to develop the title for This Is England and make the audience more interested in the footage as well as the title. The background for an Edward Gelf film title is a man's footsteps walking across the screen in a panning shot. I wanted to do this to capture the audience interest by them wanting to know who the character is and creating mystery within my sequence. To create my sequence, I used different ways of capturing shots. One of the ways which I used was to zoom into objects on the screen. This is similar to what To Kill a Mockingbird does. They did a slow zoom into a box full of objects, similar to my zoom into the candle. This makes a mysterious atmosphere. Every title sequence must have a title shown at some point. I like To Kill a Mockingbird's creative way of showing their title, as it captured the audience's attention. I wanted to do this in mine. At first I aimed to have a real fire in the shape of my title and take an overhead shot of it. However, due to health and safety restrictions, I was unable to do this, so I settled for some fiery text I had found on defonk.com. However, when browsing the web, I happened to come across a site called Detonation Films. This enabled me to add moving flames in the background of my text, creating a piece of footage closer to how I originally wanted it. This title shot typically stays on longer than any other shot, so I stuck to this and made my shot last roughly about 7 seconds. This Is England's title also stays on for a longer period of time. One thing I did notice was in both the sequences I researched, the font colour is white, therefore I did the same in mine. Another shot I used was a tracking shot to show the objects I had chosen. My main one, similar to Kill a Mockingbird, was the pocket watch. I then, as most title sequences do, introduced one of my main characters. I showed her personality through her body language and mise-en-scène, as I didn't want any diegetic sound in my sequence. Her lips were bold and red, showing a sultry, sexy look, her hair dark and wearing very little, stereotyping her as the typical James Bond woman. The way she starts facing the camera and turns shows she has attitude and confidence. By moving on to an angled tracking shot of the lipstick immediately after, the audience can then assume it belongs to her. By doing research, I found that most of the title sequences had used 3 titles on one screen. Therefore, I wanted to do this in mine. So by looking at To Kill a Mockingbird, I found that having 3 names on the screen was better than having 1. The next shot I had was a zoom out from all the accessories that a woman would have on her desk, therefore showing personality, showing what she likes to do, what she uses to style, like sort of describing who her character is and what she's like. To Kill a Mockingbird also does this by showing a screenshot of a child drawing a bird. This is interesting as you get the feel for the character, you get sort of a view of what kind of age the character is, and therefore you're introducing and getting to know the character without actually seeing the character and only seeing objects that they may use. In most title sequences, there is a shot to establish the setting of the film. In mine, I have a fairly quick shot of the house in which the film is going to be taking place. I do this by using a picture, an actual still image, and zooming out from the image to get the whole screen of the house. This Is England does a similar thing, where they try to show the setting. In this case, it's a very rundown, with graffiti everywhere, and it gives you a good feel for how and where the movie is going to take place. Another shot I tried to recreate from To Kill a Mockingbird was the shot of the girl pulling the box open with her hands. I really liked this shot as it was different from the rest because it was an overhead one. So when I tried to recreate it, I tried to put the camera as high over the box as possible. Unfortunately, by doing this, like when I was using the tripod, I kept getting the tripod legs in it. So I had to do it at an angle so that you couldn't see the tripod legs. This is something that I could change in the future and improve and hopefully develop so that I can develop skills to be able to do the overhead shot without these issues. By showing the knife at a very sudden part of the music, I feel this creates a very tense and very sudden change of atmosphere. Then by introducing the male character properly afterwards and having him fully in focus instead of like in the background of a transition shot, I was able to create a feel for his character and what he has to do with the actual sequence. I really wanted to get across the fact that the knife has something to do with him and the sort of sharpness of his character, and maybe create a mystery as to if he's killed somebody, if he's used the knife for something. Unfortunately, I was unable to actually put blood on the knife because when I used fake blood previously, it just looked too fake, it didn't look realistic, and I didn't want my title sequence to be like that. So I cleaned the knife and I thought I'll use it just as a metaphor to say what his character and personality is about. I really like the end shot of This Is England. It fades out, it's a really slow fade, and it leaves you wondering what's going to happen next and leaves you thinking what is going to happen in this film, what's going to start it off. Therefore, I wanted to take this on board and use this myself. So I took a shot of the pocket watch that the man that I used in the sequence and faded it out really slowly, just as This Is England did. I think this leaves the audience thinking, well, what's going to happen next? What's the next step in this sequence? What's going to happen in the film? And I think it's a really good part of my title sequence that I think really works well and has a good impact on the audience.